Hey everyone, I'm excited to introduce to you Melissa Sherman, who is one of our enterprise account executives at LinkedIn Learning. We were just catching up, and she actually came from a competitor of a previous company I worked at when she worked at Responsys that was bought out by Oracle. So yeah, I'm really excited to connect with you, and I think what's also amazing is would love to learn what it's like being a mom, and especially during COVID, and how you're still able to be productive despite like all these obstacles in the way. But yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and just being proactive with this podcast that you're doing too. It's great to meet you for the first time over VC.
I know, right? It's easy.
Kind of crazy.
Such a big company that I feel like even if I make an effort to meet one new person every day, I feel like it'd be impossible to meet everyone. We're just such a huge company.
I know, I know.
Yeah, but Mimi said really like has shared really good things about you, and she's awesome. Um, really enjoyed interviewing her, and she highly suggested that we connected. So, really excited to
Yay. All right, awesome. Let's do this.
yeah. So it's interesting because I think you moved from, well, you lived in New York City, and then so you stayed after Fordham. You stayed in New York City. It sounds like. Right?
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the big cultural differences between being in the Bay Area and being a New Yorker?
So it's interesting. I would say I was in New York for almost 9 years. And New York was when I first moved to the Big Apple, I moved to the Big Apple from like a very small town in Florida.
Uh,
And that's in fact where I am right now. I was born and raised in a town called Winter Park, Florida. So in this town of Winter Park, Florida, I was with the same group of people from kindergarten all the way through high school. And a bunch of us went to the same undergrad program, University of Florida. And one of the things I quickly realized as soon as I moved to New York is this diversity and this energy. And when I think of diversity, it doesn't just mean races, it doesn't just mean religions, but it also means the freedom of speech and hearing from all sides.
mm,
And I remember the first day I moved to New York City, there was a huge protest going on. And I was just, oh my God, kind of like just taken aback by it.
mm,
Um, but it taught me quite a bit. It taught me about like, what does it really mean to be inclusive and to hear all sides. But the other thing on the flip side, in New York City, I worked on Wall Street for almost 9 years.
mm,
And the work-life balance was not there, it just wasn't present. And I don't know if that's a New York thing. I don't know if it was a finance thing because I only was in finance. But the stack ranking was workforce first. If you had a family, then your family.
mm,
And I remember being at the time I was at Goldman Sachs and just looking at these managing directors, these women, and there was very few of them who worked so hard to get to where they were going, where they were, but they weren't seeing their kids grow up. Their kids were being raised by nannies.
mm.
And it just kind of gave me this like moment of maybe I want to pause and start thinking about what I want to be and like what I want my principles to be based off of.
Mm.
And so my husband and I had the opportunity to leave New York and go to San Francisco. And to answer your question, I personally believe on the West Coast in particular, in California, I see more people where it's family first and then work.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that they work less or they don't work as hard. I feel like they still put in the same amount of hours,
Huh.
but it's not necessarily about the FaceTime anymore.
Uh,
Like there's just this like respect that you have and like this accountability that they believe that you're going to fulfill your duty as an employee.
mm,
And I can say that with confidence because over my past 8 years, I've been at 3 different companies in California, from Responsys, as you mentioned, to Oracle, to a company called Demandbase, and now LinkedIn Learning.
mm.
So it's a pretty fascinating thing that I was able to see.
Yeah, I think it's in New York. So at one point I sold to like hedge funds and private equity, and so I was in that financial like alternative investment space for a while. And yeah, you're right, because and I was guilty of this as well. I would go network. I would wake up at like it was ridiculous. Now looking back, I was like, I don't know how I did that, but I would wake up at like 6 a.m. and then I would come back most nights at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, because there were always events going on and galas and benefit charity dinners. And so, and then it was interesting because everyone else was doing that too, right? And I'm like, do they not have kids? Like, I don't know how. But I think that you're right. The culture, New York does breed a sort of workaholic culture. Uh,
Right.
and it seems like the West Coast, from my understanding, even just speaking with my SF counterparts, I definitely noticed that, like there's a little bit more balance. Like there's more of that, like, yeah, we know that you'll be, but I do think LinkedIn culture in general is respects that, hey, like there's more autonomy. Because I know, like your counterparts like Brian Marl and all them like that have kids and a family, like they're pretty good about balancing things.
Mhm.
But I think New York tends to sway on the work over family.
Yeah, and who knows? It may change, right? And I hope it does, because I don't like in New York, it breeds this mentality of the harder you work, the better you are,
Um,
right? Like I remember like going to happy hours after work, and it would be like 10 o'clock at night, to your point, and everyone's bragging about how hard they're working. And they just put in a 13 or 14-hour day.
yeah.
Whereas on the West Coast, and specifically like my only data point is California, the Bay Area, right? So let me be very clear on that. It's great if you work hard, but also work smart.
Hmm.
Start thinking about like how can you be the most productive and the smartest at what you're doing, and do actions related to your job that's going to have a big impact, right? And it's okay to challenge if you want to challenge. So
Hmm.
it's a different it's like there's this idea of working hard versus working smart, and if we can find a place in society where we can bridge those two together and compromise, I think it would be amazing.
I feel like this is such a good topic. I mean, what do you like? How do you think? Because I do think sometimes people just show up and then just to show face, right? Just to like, hey, check, like I'm in the office, And I feel like sometimes like that's not even efficient, right? Because sometimes when you're in office, you get distracted. Everyone's coming up to you saying like, "Oh, how's the blah blah blah?" Like, and it's hard to really, you have to practice like prioritizing. I feel like you're really good at prioritization. Were you good at that before you had kids as well?
I don't think I had the confidence, right? I think when you think about our life, right? Typically, we all follow the same path. We go to elementary school, we go to middle school, we go to high school, and we go to a 4-year undergraduate program. And it's at that point where a lot of us take different paths. And I remember when I was 21 graduating college, my path was to go to New York City, where a lot of my friends, their path was to go to med school or law school or go back home to Winter Park, Florida, right?
Hmm.
And I remember I was so jealous of those people who wanted to go to law school or who wanted to go to med school, because they already had this like predefined, like an extension of their path. Like these are the necessary steps that you have to take to be a lawyer or to be a doctor. Whereas I remember graduating from college, I was so lost and scared and confused. I didn't have the experience, nor did I have the confidence to understand how to prioritize things.
Hmm.
I think prioritization comes with age. Like I've been now in the workforce for 16 years. And candidly, like I would say since having kids, it has forced me to take a look at what matters most.
Hmm.
And I say that because I had to hold myself accountable. When I left Goldman because I wanted my family to be first. I wanted to be a mom first and a wife first, and then a kick-ass employee second. And I truly believed I could do all of it.
That's awesome. That's inspiring because honestly, most sales culture, and I've been lucky where I've worked at a lot of different companies. I've seen what or how the company wants to portray the top performers, and often it's a single person, right? Like clearly, like they're putting in like, I mean, what I see even 80-hour weeks, right? But it's almost like see, this is what's possible. And then these are all the awards you're going to win. So a lot of other companies, they celebrate like just the revenue that you bring in, which I think is great. But
Mhm.
the thing I like most about LinkedIn is there's other things that are celebrated that's beyond just like how much money you bring in, right? Like, so I that's why I think LinkedIn is a different, it's awesome because, you know, like, like you said, even Jeff Weiner, showing that, hey, like my kids are important and them joining the meeting, like that was so touching. Like I could have cried from happiness just because I'm like, most CEOs wouldn't do that, you know?
Exactly. It's so funny because I recall a moment last year. Have you heard of Parents at LinkedIn? It's called PAL.
Hmm.
Okay. So there was this moment last year. I was part of the first team that did the Bring Your Kids to Work Day.
Oh.
And in San Francisco, I remember that day I was so stressed and I was like committed to bringing my kids in work. And I was just like, in my head, I had all these emotions and all this noise going on because there were so many other things going on professionally for me.
Hmm.
I remember I showed up to the table, right? And I like brought my kids, and across the room, I see Mark Labosco,
Oh, no way.
and
Oh.
he brought his twins. And
Oh.
I remember thinking to myself, okay, here's a man who has so much more on his plate than I do, like from a professional perspective. Like Melissa only has to worry about Melissa's book, right? Melissa only has to worry about Melissa's quota. Like that is my job at hand. And then you have someone like Mark Labosco who took 3 hours, maybe 4 hours out of his day to bring his kids to work. And I remember seeing that, and that was my aha moment. Again, it's like if you think about LinkedIn and the culture it breeds, it all comes from the top down,
Hmm.
right? And it's okay, right? If you want to bring your kids to work and maybe what you were supposed to do on that Friday can get done over the weekend because we're all part of this movement. It's not just, the moms bringing their kids to work, but it's also the dads and the leaders bringing their kids to work. And it creates this movement, not this moment, but a movement. And I think it's super important that when we start thinking about these like critical moments in life or movements,
Hmm.
that it comes from all walks of life, not just the moms.
That's awesome. Yeah, it reminds me of so Kyle Paul will often bring his kids to work and his wife, and it's awesome too because like, you know, does that. I can see that it's like, okay, it's okay to kind of take a step back and just like to hang, you know, like it. So I love it when leaders show, and it kind of remind me. I remember at Trinet once, it was a holiday party and you're allowed to bring a guest. So I brought my mom to the holiday.
Oh, I love it.
But it was just funny because I was the only one that like brought his mom. Everyone else obviously brought like their husbands and their wives and,
Yeah.
girlfriend and boyfriend. And I just remember like, but it was awesome because I was just like, hey, this is true to who I am, you know. And
Mhm.
she had a blast. But yeah, I think it starts with like leading by example, right? That's really cool. And I'm curious. So it sounded like a lot of your friends. So you made the conscious decision to move to San Francisco, and then, you know, you shared with me that you took a step back and it was like really scary during that moment, and there are a lot of people doubted you. They're kind of like, hey, like that's probably not a smart idea. Like, I guess, like, how did you, were there certain friends, or who did you go to, or did you just have to trust your own intuition?
So there's two moments in my life where I had to trust my own intuition, and not to get too personal, but if I think about my role model growing up, it was always my father. Like my father could do no wrong. And I remember moving to New York, and I'm a Catholic. I was born Catholic. My aunt's a nun,
Mm.
and we talk about this idea of diversity and inclusion, right? And I remember moving to New York and meeting my husband, and I knew he was the one. And
Aw.
my husband happened to be it happens to be Jewish.
Oh, right.
And so when I brought Josh home for the first time in Winter Park, there was this moment where my dad was just very uncomfortable, right? In the sense of like, and again, my dad was an amazing man, like
Mm.
just so open, so honest, but he was really nervous that he didn't realize, like I didn't realize what I was potentially getting myself into by marrying someone who's Jewish, and how hard it is, and how marriage alone is hard, but this is going to be harder.
Hmm.
And that was a moment where I was like, Dad, I have to trust my instinct. Like, I know he is the one. And like, we've been married for 10 years now. We have 2 beautiful kids, and it was an amazing moment.
Hmm.
The second time, where again, going back to your question, is so I married Josh, and I was at Goldman Sachs doing well. And again, my gut instinct is like, this is not the right place for me. Not only from like a work-life balance, but also from a moral perspective. I just didn't feel good with what I was doing anymore. I just didn't want to make money off of it. I didn't feel good morally. I remember again going to my dad and saying, you know, I'm thinking about quitting Goldman. And at the time I didn't have a job, but he's like, well, what are you can't quit Goldman. Like, you've worked so hard to get to where you are, and anyone would be so lucky to have this job at Goldman. You've got the brand equity there. What are you doing, Melissa? And I'm like, Dad, it just doesn't speak to me. It's not right. And I remember him looking at me, and he just said, you know, okay. And he's like, I don't agree with this, but this is your life that you have to live. And it was my husband who supported this move.
Hmm.
And so it's like, as long I had that partner, right? Josh was my partner in crime, who essentially said, listen, like, you've got to believe what in yourself. And I'm the one who lives with you. I'm the one who sees you. I'm the one who understands what you're feeling, because I live with you. I see it every day. Do what's right for you morally and follow your principles. And that's what I did. And it was a freeing moment, like those 2 times in my life. And it ended up working out for the best, right? Yeah, people always say hindsight's 2020, but like, it's the 2 moments in my life that I can always look back on and said, I made that decision on my own, and it was the right choice.
Hmm.
And it gave me the confidence to continue to make other decisions on my own, following my gut.
Huh. That's interesting. I feel like we could talk a lot just about decision making in general, right? And as you say, as you get older, I think you just become. Why? I guess why is it? Do you think as you become older, you can trust yourself more? Because I know for me, I've noticed even the growth over the last couple of years. Where in the beginning, I would always ask my directors and my VPs, and everyone's like, "Well, what should I do?" And then they would kind of mess with me. They're like, "I don't like. What do you think we should do?" And then I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I probably should figure it out on my own before I always, like." So yeah, I guess I'm curious to what is it about? Like, why do you think, um, is it that when you get older, you're just more confident in your values, your priorities, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a question that probably all of us debate. For me personally, I think as you get older, like, again, I think it depends on your life and like your experiences and like your self-awareness. Like, the more self-aware you are, the more confident you will become with your feelings and the decisions that you make. And so self-awareness, to me, it's like, I think our job as parents or as people is to educate people on self-awareness and like right versus wrong, and just the principles. Like, what principles are you looking to live for your entire life? Um, and my parents did that really well, but I don't think it was until I actually left college and started that really crazy journey that wasn't defined, where it was me making decisions on what job I was going to take. It was me making decisions on when I was going to quit a job. It was me making decisions on who I was going to marry. It was me making decisions on where I wanted to live. And I
Mm.
think it's like an aggregation of those little mini decisions that sometimes don't mean that much, but in the grand scheme of things, when you combine them, you look back, even if you're 24 or 25 years old, and you get more confidence or gain more confidence that you can make the right decision. But you've got to be self-aware during the process. And
Mm.
even if you fail, right? All of us have made wrong decisions in the past. Like, that's part of life. It goes back to this idea: if you fail or you make the wrong choice, learn from it quickly and move on. Just move forward.
Yeah. How do you suggest people that have made mistakes not to get paralyzed by their mistakes? And because I do think with or not everyone, but a lot of people, the more mistakes we make, the more we're like, oh yeah, like where we become a little bit less, like more afraid to, like to make like a decision that's uncomfortable?
Oh, I mean, I think it's like just who you are as a person, right? There's some people who are more risk adverse, some people who are less risk adverse.
Yeah.
Like if I look at a group of my friends that I grew up with, the ones that I talked about in the beginning,
Hmm.
I have like 8 people that I literally are like from kindergarten all the way through college that we were together. Only 3 of us left this small town.
Uh, huh.
So if you think about those 3 of us who left the small town, we're willing to take on a little bit more risk and educate ourselves on like just different things in general. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing. This is what makes the world go round. Um, but to answer your question, like for all of us who fail, right? Because every single human being, whether you're risk averse or not, we're all gonna fail.
Yeah.
And it's my whole thing is it's what do we do and what do we learn from that moment? Because when we are, and I'm not to try to be grotesque, but like when we're on our deathbed
Yeah.
and we look back on our life and what we were able to accomplish during that lifetime, we never want to live by the what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I'm always trying to ingrain in myself is like
Mm-hmm.
the what if scenario. What if I would have done this or what if I would have done that? Like, I don't want to live my life like that. I want to know that I tried my hardest to be where I am today and there's no regrets.
That's awesome. I love that. That's really inspiring. And on a side note, because I'm just noticing out like just noticing. So do you also work out a lot and eat really healthy? You seem healthy. Because I feel like a lot of people like one of their excuses is like I don't have time to be like an awesome mom, crush my quota, and be like moving up the corporate ladder and raise a family, right? Like I think that's like the most common, I guess, excuses I hear in life, and I'm like, it seems like you're able to do all of them.
So no, I like to work out. It's for my mind because like even today I went on a run this morning with my husband and
Okay.
the moment, the current climate, the Black Lives Matter, it's like been weighing on me heavily
Well,
and not from a perspective of like it's more of what can I do? Like how can I help make this a movement and not a moment? Right. And so it's been weighing on me heavily. So I personally feel like a lot of my like running is my thing and working out is my thing. And during those moments and during those like that time of exercising, my mind is so clear.
uh,
Right. And it's just important for me to have that time to myself so I can think and understand the noise in my head. Because we all have noises in our head and like
hmm.
just make sense of it a little bit.
I love that. Do you also do CrossFit?
My husband does CrossFit. I do not.
Like it. Um, yeah, Mimi, I feel like Mimi's also, that's how we kind of met a lot because like we would do the boxing classes together and then
Oh, gotcha.
yeah.
It's awesome. So are you similar? Like you work out too, just to kind of clear your mind?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Like it's weird. Like I don't know. Like I think I like pain because like I'll do these crazy like 100 plus mile bike rides without training, or I'll just like run a half marathon, just sign up for it tomorrow. Like I'll just do all these weird things, and people are like, I don't get it. And then but to your point, like that's when I'm actually the happiest because I feel like that's like
Yeah,
I'm present, not thinking about my quota or like, oh, this deal is coming in today. I got to send out that email. You know what I mean? Like I'd have to get approval. Like that's when I'm just like, all right, like I don't have to worry about work.
exactly. And it's those moments like it's funny. So I've done 7 marathons. Like I'm a runner at heart
Huh.
and I'm a runner, not a racer. And the biggest difference between that is like if you're a runner, in my opinion, you enjoy. So if it takes you 10 minutes to do a mile or
Hmm.
whatever, like the idea is just you giving yourself that space in that moment in time
Hmm.
just for you, right? It's a reward. And so when people are sometimes like, you've done 7 marathons, I'm like, yeah, but like I'm enjoying myself. Like I'm not literally getting there, like running to get into the bus to qualify for Boston.
Yeah.
Like if I see my kids on the sidelines, I'm going to stop and take pictures with them, right? It's not about the time. It's about what it's doing for me internally and mentally.
That's awesome. I feel like that's a fresh perspective because I don't think many people have that perspective. You know, it's kind of like people. want to get like to President's Club and stuff like that. But sometimes I feel like they're more enamored with like the actual getting to than respecting the process, right? I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I do think some people they hit the goal and then like they become almost depressed afterwards. They're like, now what? You know, rather than like just kind of like smelling the roses and appreciating like the little things along the way. You know,
Yeah.
that's deep. Okay.
This has been pretty deep, huh? Were you expecting this?
No, honestly, I was not.
Dear Lord, I'm not a philosopher, I promise you.
No, but I think it's important, right? Because I do think like sometimes we in sales, like we go through the motions and it's like, all right, on to the next, become a two and then become a three and then become a sales manager, whatever, right? But then
Right.
sometimes like we lose sight of like, okay, like if I'm bringing my kids to work, like I could take the time to introduce them to the everyone instead of, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting concept that I don't think many of us think about.
Well, it's kind of going back to that point. I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'm not trying to. But why did you become a salesperson?
I mean, for me, like, I just love hearing people's stories. Like, I love like just hearing like why they started their own business or why did you get into this. So me, I think it was just more about like the human relationships and then seeing their business grow over time. Like, oh wow, like congratulations, you got your Series D. Like that's not last time we spoke. You know, you were still, still trying to meet fundraisers and stuff like that. So it's just for me, it's cool to see the progression, but I do think sales like is cool as well because I think you're solving problems essentially, right? And it feels nice to know like, okay, I've made a difference. Like I keep in touch with a lot of my accounts, and then now they're into diversity and inclusion, and then so I'll kind of talk to them. I'm like, wow, I see that they're evolving and they're changing. So for me, it's cool to kind of be a part of that journey with them.
That's great. I remember, like, I love to help people. That's just one of the things that really inspires me. And I remember when I was an undergrad, I was like, I want to be a doctor and I want to be a physician's assistant or I want to do this. And I remember going through those motions a little bit. I want to be a lawyer, right? I was going through these motions and I quickly realized that helping people it means something very different. And for me, like if I were a doctor, an attorney, and nothing against those professions whatsoever, but it's kind of the same thing over and over again. You're almost like a mechanic in a way. And I remember thinking to myself, and both my parents are salespeople, by the way, just FYI. And I saw the relationships that they were able to create with their customers. Like my mom was at Xerox for 43 years.
Oh.
And then my dad started his own like commercial real estate business. And I saw the relationships he created. I saw the people he helped. And I was like, that to me is what means helping people. So when I think about the opportunity that we have, right? Aside from just our mission, right? I think our mission at LinkedIn is super, super, super important. But every salesperson has the opportunity to make someone else look like a hero
Hmm.
and help them solve problems.
Uh,
And it's just so fascinating to me, like, because like if I know, like, and it's like always operating in good faith, right? Like when we're on that call with a customer,
hmm.
yes, I get that we have to meet our quota, and I get there's a lot of pressure, and like I maybe might be one deal away from President's Club, whatever it is. Like those are our intentions. It's not the customer's intentions. And I think if we operate in good faith and really put our customers first, like truly put our customers first, it becomes so powerful when you know you've helped them.
Hmm. Yeah, I've noticed the common theme amongst like you and Liz Rice and I interviewed Mullins as well. Like all the top folks, like you guys are just the passion that you have for the mission of LinkedIn. Like it's a very genuine. Like it's interesting to see. Yeah, like you know that you see a lot of parallels, right? Because I've interviewed like Andy Linder and Bree Bossy and like and all. And like okay, like you notice like all right, all you guys are like not only super bought into LinkedIn's mission, like but you I feel like you have it at like the visceral level, right? Not like superficial, like yeah, like we're doing good things, but you genuinely feel it. It's actually really inspiring. It's really cool. Yeah.
I mean, that's what keeps me going, right? I think sales is not easy, and there's highs and there's lows, and it's during those moments of lows, like this could be considered a low for some of us, right? It's reaching back into myself and like, why am I here? Why am I here? Why do I wake up every day? And I have these conversations with customers that I know is not going to short-term lead to a contract signature, but I'm here because I'm helping with something bigger that I necessarily wouldn't be able to do without LinkedIn. That is why I am here. I am here to make this person look like a hero. I'm here to make diversity and inclusion a thing. I'm here because my customer's really scared. They don't know if they're going to have a job or not. And I want to give them free resources to help them have a voice in the company. And once you understand why you're here and why you do what you do, and you have a company that you truly believe in, that's magical, in my opinion, because there are lows. Like, sales is not easy. And like, if you speak to these top performers, like, they've had years where it's been awful, and they've had really good years, and you got to stick to your truth.
Yeah, it's humbling to hear that, because sometimes on the surface, right, it doesn't seem like you guys like struggle and like, you know what I mean? But obviously we all go through it, but sometimes like, you look and you're like, man, like they just seem like they just have it all to get, like never a bad quarter, right? But I'm sure it's different when you peel back the layers, right?
It's very different. And I think we all need to be a little bit more vulnerable about that, right? Because I think all too often sales reps, and I'm included, yesterday I had the day where I called one of my friends. I'm like, do you ever measure your self-worth by how good, like how close you are to meeting your quota? And that's me, who's been in this field for a while, and I'm a large enterprise rep. And the answer is yes, we all get ourselves into that situation sometimes. And we got to get ourselves out of that. And if you think about LinkedIn and our mission, it's beyond results. It's about leadership. It's about leverage. And I think that's in place for these very moments.
That's a timely message, and I know we're close to time, but I was literally talking to my team, because our team hit our annual already, right? So
Awesome.
for me, it's hard to not compare, right? But then one of my teammates like said it nicely. He's like, dude, I'm not gonna mention names because I don't want to put anyone under, but he was like, so and so, he's like the Michael Jordan of SMB learning. It's like, so you can't compare yourself to like him or her, right? He's like, you could be like the Karl Malone or like John Stockton, of our division, but like, yeah, like stop comparing yourself to others, because like relative to the rest of the org, I'm doing actually like pretty well, right? But then everyone on our team is like just crushing it, like 140%, 150, and then you're just like, man, like what am I doing wrong? I don't know. It's hard, not comparing yourself. Yeah.
But you can. And like, as we all know, a big piece of sales is the opportunity that's presented as well sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And just learning. If you see those Michael Jordans, like, are they doing anything differently that you may or may not be doing? And I still, to this day, I think the worst thing a salesperson can do is stop learning and stop trying to evolve. Like, I learn from people like you, right? Or I learn from my SDs. I learn from, like, the reason why I think I'm so successful, candidly, I never think I'm the best. I know I'm not the best, but I'm surrounded by people who are very good at what they do. And I want to be a sponge and learn as much as possible. And a lot of times it's even outside of sales. It's the people who are super passionate about like serving the customer, like customer service, our customer success managers. It's the content team. And when you leverage those resources and you truly act like a quarterback for your customer and bring in all the right people to help them look like a hero in their organization, that's our job.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really inspiring to hear you say that. And you're right. Like there is a common theme, right? Like the best leaders are most humble, right? Like I feel like Kyle Paul is pretty humble. Like he's obviously super talented, but he's always very humble. So, well, thank you so much, Melissa. This
Thank you.
Jen, I really enjoyed it. I think it's timely message, and Yeah, I'm so glad that we got to connect today.
Awesome. And I'm so nice that we got to meet each other.
Yeah, I know. It's been I've heard so much about you, so I'm glad that we're able to connect and share with others your wisdom.
All right. Thanks, Davis, and stay safe. And thanks for doing this. It's for a great cause.
Aw. Okay, take
All
care.
right. Talk later. Bye.